Cozy. Hi, and welcome back to another flute tip of the week. I figured that last week we got pretty technical with recording devices, and the weeks before were very much focused on practice and hand position, so I thought that today what we should do is talk about things that will expand our artistic horizons. So let's jump in and see what we got. A musician expresses music. An artist expresses everything. Experience as much of the arts as you possibly can. It can be really difficult for people who live in areas that may not have very deep cultural roots to be able to do this kind of thing, but luckily we do have the internet, we've got YouTube, and now we also have lots of virtual tours that are starting to pop up online from museums and such, so this is still equally appropriate for people who maybe aren't lucky enough to have something within driving or easy transport distance. There are aspects of each art that we are able to put into our music performance. One of my favorite things to do if I'm going to go in a museum is to see ancient architecture. And I like to see this because it is the realization of changing a block of stone into something that is both meaningful, practical, and also will withstand the tides of time. If these cultures from hundreds or even thousands of years ago can have these gorgeous buildings that mean so much, not just historically and culturally, but also personally to the people who made these, and for those to still be on display, for them to be sturdy and still able to hold their weight, is an amazing thing. And this is something we all wish to emanate, and we can take a lot of examples from architecture. Another thing that I really recommend getting into is opera. The reason why I say it's important to get into it is because it is basically everything that music could possibly be. It has stage production, it has dancing, important libretto that is supposed to speak to you and tell the story or inflect some sort of deep emotional value. All of it is based on a perfectly worked out harmony between all of these different art forms. This basically combines visual art, literature, dance, music, and even building. This is everything to do with music. Seeing plays is also really important because a lot of the time they're not going to have any music, and this is going to be hinged almost entirely on the stage presence and timing and the inflection of words used by the actors. I recently saw a production called No Man's Land, starring Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. To see such masters who are world-renowned for their craft just play off of each other and create this sense where you're suddenly just not even realizing how much time has gone by is a remarkable thing. You can analyze this kind of mastery to the exact time that they leave between a statement and the realization of the deeper connotations. And this is why it's important to get an appreciation for stage productions that aren't musicals or operas. Next, of course, we need to talk about literature. There are all different kinds of writing styles. You've got anything from George Orwell. And then on the other side, where you have Joe Nesbo, you have entirely different structures for creating a world where the reader is unaware of what's happening around them and is just completely enveloped in what's happening to the characters. It is the creation of story through words as opposed to through notes and rhythm. Next, we have visual art. When you are looking at a piece of art and you're not approaching it after having spoken about it with someone else and having already a slightly biased opinion of it, you are the one who gets to decide what that means. And you have to see exactly how the shapes flow into each other or clash, and this creates a very similar world to the different structures and approaches that composers have even within the same genre. And finally, I want to talk about dance. And dance is very interesting because this is a physical interpretation of music. And in a lot of cases is not only an interpretation of music, but a physical representation of the story that inspired the music that thus inspires the dance. And it's fascinating to watch this because with any kind of interpretation of an original source, you are going to have completely different interpretations. It's an enormous collaboration of artistic minds, and it is all just completely in sync. And it is so important for us as musicians to really understand or at least appreciate these different art forms so that we're able to apply that into our own practice, into our own performance, so that we can give the best possible representation of our skill, our personality within it, and also our musical ability. So again, that tip was musicians express music, artists express everything. Experience as much of the arts as you possibly can. Hope you find this week's tip helpful. I'll see you all next week in Canada. Flute happy, keep warm, expand your horizons. As I said in my travel video a few months ago, I always have an extra power bank with me so that if I'm traveling or in case of an emergency and my phone has died or I need to charge someone else's phone, I always am able to do that without having to rely on a power outlet. And one of them broke recently, so yesterday I got a new one. I can now harness the power.